I built this business the old-fashioned way. Hard work and a whole lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah, about that, I upgraded us to Odoo. Odoo puts everything we need, sales, inventory, accounting, on one connected platform. No more juggling systems, no more headaches.
So it all works together?
Exactly.
Odoo is the all-in-one business software that makes running and passing on a business easier than ever. Take your business into the next generation. Try Odoo free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to Real Estate Real and Unscripted with Nicole Miller. I am so excited to have everyone back on this show, and this is going to be, I venture to say, one of my best ones yet. I've really looked forward to this subject. If anyone knows me from my doing business with me, I'm very passionate about this subject matter. I'm very big on educating clients and the public and other realtors on how this mysterious tax appraiser's office works and your tax assessment on your property. So with me today, I am very honored to have the Broward County property appraiser, Marty Kiar.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. And so I've been looking forward to the show for some time now, and I'm so excited that we were able to make it work in your schedule. And so thank you so much for taking the time. And I know you're very big on education and getting the public the information they need. And so I'd love to be able to drop so much knowledge today so that we can get all the right info in people's hands. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to have you here.
Well, I have to tell you, I really appreciate you inviting me because I know we spoke about this a little before. There's so much that our office can do to help our Broward County public, but sometimes reaching everybody is difficult.
Yep.
And so whenever anybody like yourself thinks enough of me to bring me on so I can talk about how our office can help them, it helps me reach people I can't reach on my own. So thank you so much for that. I think it's just fantastic.
Amazing. And the premise of this show, as you guys know out there, is to bring to you education. Everything that touches the real estate ecosystem and the meat and potatoes of the side of the knowledge part of it. Not just the sales, not just the fluff, but the things that really matter that many people don't know. And that's great. But once you do know, you're able to make the best decisions possible. And so this is always a hot button topic with so many different nuances in it. And, even like I was telling you, Marty, like I've seen Facebook posts of like my taxes, my this, right? And I think that it's a really big, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And I think that a lot of pain points come to people when they're not properly educated and they don't have all the information in hand in advance. So the purpose of this show is to kind of dispel some myths, talk about some important things with respect to your property and taxes, exemptions, different things that Marty's worked on that are awesome. So I'm going to jump right in and allow you to tell us a little bit more about yourself, brief career history, what brought you into this position, your passion, and what makes you different, and what's your inner passion that makes you different.
Well, you are awesome, Nicole, and thank you so very much again. I have to tell you, I love this job. I'm a very lucky person. I've lived in Broward County my entire life. I always tell people I was born there, and one day I'll be resting peacefully there. I am never leaving. I have a beautiful wife named Kelly. I always tell folks that I married up and she's settled and nobody disagrees. And we have two amazing teenage daughters. Being the dad of two teenage daughters is an interesting thing, but they are absolutely wonderful. I adore them, and I consider myself the epitome of a girl dad. I just love them. I also have three cats, Toby, Maggie, and Rocky. They're all rescues, and we love them as well. For myself, I actually went to Western High School, which is located in the town of Davie a long time ago. After that, I went to a small school actually up here in Palm Beach County called Palm Beach Atlantic University, where I played baseball. And then I went to law school at Nova Southeastern University. And
you stayed here the whole time.
I did. I am never leaving. And after I graduated from law school, I actually moved in with my parents so I could save a little bit of money at that time. And, was a new lawyer. And one day I was jogging. And my dad was the former mayor of Davie and is my hero in this world. And one thing that he did was he made bike paths all throughout the town of Davie. And so as I was jogging, and this is way back in 2004, I was looking around. And I saw a person pushing a stroller on the bike paths. I was using them. Other people were using them. And then I saw all these other things that my dad did. And I basically said, you know what? I kind of want to do what he did. I want to be able to make a difference and help make people's lives better. And so I decided to run for the Florida House of Representatives. And I jumped into an open seat. ran like crazy, and I lost in a very close election. But then for that same seat, I came back in 2006 and I won. Served there for 6 years. I loved it. Then I got elected to the Broward County Commission and became the county's mayor. Loved that, did that for 4 years. And then in 2017, the people of Broward County elected me to be their Broward County property appraiser. And I could say of all the elected jobs I've ever had, this one I love the most by far because you get to interact with everyone in the county and the nature of the job lets you help people. And let me tell you the big difference. When you serve in the Florida legislature, it's awesome. I mean, you get to debate education and healthcare. You get to try to make the state better. But sometimes you feel so far away from the people, you always get to meet the people you're helping. Same thing when you serve as the mayor of Broward County or on the county commission. You get to make the port better or mass transit better. You get to make the airport better. You get to try to make Broward County very strong economically statewide. But you really don't get to meet a lot of the people you're helping. Property appraiser, I think, is the greatest elected job alive because your job is basically constituent services. All day, every day, you help people with their property. You help seniors and veterans. It's the type of job that when you go home, you put your head in your pillow, you feel like you did something really good that day. So I just love it. And that's pretty much the brief history of Marty.
I love it. And I think I can answer the second part of that is your passion. You've got such great energy and you can tell that you really enjoy what you do. I think that makes a difference in the work that is put out by anybody.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll tell you, I'm a very hyper guy. I love what I do. Technically, when I wake up in the morning, I'm also kind of excited. So my wife makes me stay on the other side of the house while she has a cup of coffee. She's like, I'll deal with you in a little while. But I really appreciate that, Nicole. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. So, we're kind of just going to dig into some questions and, go through a lot of different points. So starting off, what does the Broward County Property Appraiser actually do? What do people misunderstand about your role? What is the structure of kind of like the organization? Who are doing the appraisals? Like, tell us a little bit about just the organization of it all.
So there are really three main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County for tax purposes, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or centrally assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is when people pay their property taxes, the amount of taxes they pay is a relationship between the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by whatever local government you live in. So the higher the value of the property, the more taxes people pay. The lower the value of property, the lower amount of taxes they pay. And all we want to do is make sure we get it right. And Broward County is a huge place. More people live there than 13 states, the District of Columbia, and all U.S. territories except Puerto Rico. That's how big it is. And we appraise more parcels than exist in many states. And all we want to do is make sure we get it right. And that's the most important job that we have. Because when we get that value, what we do is we give it to all the taxing authorities. The taxing authorities then set their millage rate on that value, and that determines the amount of money that they bring in and also determines the amount of property taxes people pay. The second thing that we do, and this is what I love most about my job, is we give tax-saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law. There's the homestead exemption, you have senior exemptions, veterans exemptions, disability exemptions. And my goal is to find every single person in Broward County entitled to a tax-saving exemption and to give it to them. And finally, the last thing that we do, and this isn't required by law, but it's something that we do, is we really heavily crack down on fraud. We have a civil fraud division and a criminal fraud division. Our civil fraud division goes after people who illegally claim exemptions that they're not entitled to get. And our criminal fraud division, I'm really proud of, is we basically have partnerships with law enforcement. We have a pretty big staff, and their entire job is to find people that steal homes, take out fake mortgages, do bad things, cloud titles, and we arrest them, we find them, we put them in jail. Those are pretty much the main functions to our office. But most importantly, as I said before, our office is basically constituent services. Aside from the stuff that we do, our job is basically to help people all day, every day. If somebody's concerned about the value of their property, we go through it with them and try to figure out a way to bring it down. If somebody isn't getting an exemption they're entitled to, we make sure they get it. If somebody's being defrauded or taken advantage of, we're there to protect them. That's really what we do, and I love it so very much.
Yeah, no, you guys do a great job. I can say that I've been in this business for 12 years, and I usually go straight to the source whenever I have a question. So I've called your office countless times and been like, hey, I have this situation. Hey, this is happening. Hey, what happens exactly? Like exactly. I like to know the exacts when this happens. And they've been great, honestly. And sometimes, too, I feel like I've gotten responses where they're like, we'll follow up with Marty. And I'm like, really? You will? Okay, cool, right? So I feel like you guys are very accessible, and your team does a really good job. I've never had negative to say. It's been always a very quick, easy, very helpful and knowledgeable experience.
Thank you. And I have to compliment you, Nicole, because there's so much that our office can do and so many ways we can help the public, but we're not at the front line. You are. A person that's a realtor is right there with their client, and their client's really relying on them. And when their realtor, like you, takes the time to call our office, say, hey, this is the situation with my client. This is their issue. And the fact that you take that time and we're able to help provide you information helps you make a difference for your client. And it helps me make a difference because I couldn't make a difference if you didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so I just really appreciate you taking the time to do that. I think that everybody should follow your lead because I think it can go a very long way, not just for the realtor themselves, but for their client and for everybody else. So thank you so much for that.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And we'll give some examples too. And the purpose of this show is really, this, like I said, I'm very passionate. Years ago, I wrote an article that I put in a Tap into Coral Springs about property, like the values and how it's assessed. Because, you guys get calls all the time of my values went, my taxes went up and da-da-da. And, I'll see posts on Facebook groups of I can't believe it. My taxes went up and blah, blah, blah. And my first thing, I'll look at their name. Sometimes if they have a unique name like yours, I'll pull it up on the county record and I'll find them. I'll be like, oh, he bought it. He bought it last year and he just got reassessed, right? And nobody educated him on what that meant to buy a house from Shirley, who owned it since 1998, paid $250 for it, and has had Homestead and has had Save Our Homes, and we'll talk about that. And then they bought it, and they bought it for $1.2 million, and they want to know why their tax bill is not $4,800 anymore, right? So that's something that a lot of times in my industry, I'll see even where the lenders will calculate your numbers and they'll tell you, here's your payment. And they're using the seller's last taxes. Some lenders are a little bit more shrewd, and this kind of came about. I've noticed there's a few of them that will try to forward more estimate, but it's not close. It's a little bit better, but they'll see, oh, wait, this doesn't make sense. And why? Because they've had a lot of the feedback. They've had a lot of people come back, and they've had a lot of those tax bills come back the next year with a huge differential that really put that buyer in a position where they had to sell the house. It's a very different situation where you think your payment is $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 less. Oh, yeah. And it's not that anyone's being shady or taking more of your money. That's just how it's calculated, right? So you got to be fully informed before you get in that, jump into that to make sure that you're doing it correctly. And you're anticipating what's going to actually happen before it becomes a problem. So
absolutely.
And so you were saying about the thing that you were most proud about that you've spearheaded that kind of went statewide, right? The owner alert. So talk about that, because that's a really awesome thing that you did.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm so proud of owner alert. Unfortunately, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. Yes. It's the capital of the world because you have criminals, and that's what they are. And what they do is they walk into the recording divisions of every county every single day in the state of Florida. They file fake deeds on people's properties, and they take those deeds and they extort people for money, or they mortgage, rent, or sell the property. They do it all the time. And the reason it's so easy for them is the recording divisions have a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever documents filed with them. So you have these criminals, they walk in, they file a fake deed, and they do something nefarious with it. So the first thing we wanted to do is give the people of Broward County the option to fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. So about 4 years ago now, we came up with what we call Owner Alert. It's really a notification system letting people know if somebody changes the title to their property. And here's how anybody can sign up. They go to our website at bcpa.net. They click on Owner Alert. They type in their name, they type in their parcel ID number, and they type in their email address. And if we have their email address on file, they're automatically verified. If not, they have to upload their Florida driver's license or Florida ID. If they don't have that, they have to upload a utility bill or something proving ownership. And then if any document legitimate or not is filed changing ownership, they'll be notified instantaneously by email, by text message, even get a hard copy in the mail. And it's there to protect their most important asset, which is their home. We've had about 330,000 Broward County property owners sign up so far. And my goal is to get everybody to sign up because it is such an important thing.
Yeah.
And when I started this program, I started getting phone calls and emails from residents. And they would say, Marty, I just got an alert from your office that somebody changed the title to my property, but I didn't do it. And then I got more and more and more. And so I came up with a little bit of a different idea. I wanted to work with law enforcement, build criminal cases, and put the people in jail who are doing this. So I got the approval from the Department of Revenue, which oversees the property appraisers, to do it. I decided to call it my Crimes Against Property team. I got the county commission to fund it. And then I went to see my friend, Sheriff Tony, who's the sheriff for Broward County. And I go, Sheriff Tony, I am super excited. I have a great program in my office, my crimes against property team, but I have a big problem. I'm not law enforcement. You are. I can't issue probable cause affidavits, search warrants. I can't arrest people. You can. Can we work together? And then without even thinking twice, he said, absolutely, Marty. And he assigned 4 sheriff's detectives to work for our office, in our office, so we could do the job of law enforcement. I then went to Harold Pryor, our state attorney, and I go, Harold, the sheriff and I, we're working together, and we're going to build these criminal cases. And if we bring you cases you think are prosecutorial, would you prosecute the people that are doing this? And he goes, absolutely. And he assigned an assistant state attorney to work with our office so we can do the job of law enforcement. And so over the past 4 years, our crimes against property team has grown to about 8 people in our office that are former law enforcement, 4 sheriff's detectives, 2 Florida Department of Law Enforcement detectives, the Hollywood City Police Department, Fort Lauderdale Police Department, all the other police departments. We work with the FBI and we work with the court system to get property back to people in a much more expeditious manner. And over the past few years, we've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of individual criminal cases, hundreds of arrests, many, many convictions. We actually have a 100% conviction rate.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very, very proud of it. And the convictions are getting pretty long. And just to give you an idea, we had one recently where a guy stole a senior's home in Tamarack. He decided to go to a jury. The jury found him guilty and the judge gave him 15 years. And so my goal is to hold them all accountable because they really pick on vulnerable people. They take their most important asset. They hurt them.
Vacant homes too.
They do. And so I just want to put them in jail.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great program. And like you said, so the county has a ministerial duty to record those things. So I was curious if there's, with the future and technology and blockchain and like things like that, all those things to get to the point where it like doesn't even get recorded in the future, right? Like, is there maybe, that's a huge difference, but at least here, like he said, you get the alert and that deed was changed over. Yes. But once you get that alert, it's soon enough before they do all sorts of nefarious, crazy things with it, before they mortgage it, before they go to a realtor and try to sell it, which, by the way, was something I almost was involved in. And they didn't transfer the deed yet, but I had figured out that they had gained access into the house, were trying to sell it, called me to sell it. And I did my research because I do certain things. I'm my own little investigator in the back end, found the number of the real owner, the long story short, filed a case with Margate PD and sent them. I don't know what happened after that, but literally it happens.
Yes.
And happens. Especially with the vacant homes and things like that. Yeah.
And I appreciate so much you doing your due diligence. What I like to tell to realtors and other folks is if something looks a little too good, it probably is.
Yeah.
And so just be very careful because many of our cases involve realtors, but unwittingly doing it. They just don't know. I mean, they think they're selling a property. Everything looks very legitimate, and it turns out it isn't.
Yeah.
And so I always tell everybody, if you have any concerns whatsoever, just call our office, talk to our crimes against property team. We can kind of like help you all through it as well. So it's thank you for doing, again, the due diligence that you do. I think that's awesome.
I wanted to be an FBI agent back in my day. So I do all sorts of I'm Inspector Gadget.
You know what you should do? Actually, you know what I did, which was one of the best experiences ever? The Miami division of the FBI. It's actually located in Miramar.
Oh, yes.
And actually I did the FBI Citizens Academy, which was the greatest thing ever, where it's about 6 months and you go once a week and they take you through everything the FBI does. And I love it.
That is cool.
It is awesome. You should sign up for it.
Thank you for letting me know. I'm going to make a note of that. That's awesome. Thank you.
It's super cool, without a doubt.
I love it. Yeah, I did some, I did security for a big box retailer and did surveillance work. I've been trained in that stuff. So my mind goes into those directions. And so when I work with people, I usually do a lot of these things and they're like, really? I never thought about that. Oh, wow. Well,
they actually told me I would have made the worst FBI agent ever because on one day we had surveillance day. And in surveillance day, the way they do it, they have a person that is supposed to be a bad person, is an FBI agent. And I was supposed to be one of the FBI agents surveilling him. And it was at a mall. And they basically said, as the guy was walking me, I had like this big smile on my face. And they're like, Marty, you were literally the worst FBI agent ever. We saw that coming 100 feet away. So it's, what they do is just pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
No, that's awesome how much traction you've had to help put this, get these people accountable.
Oh, thank you.
It's unfortunate. It's really sad.
It is. But thank you, Nicole.
No problem. Thank you. What would you say the biggest misconception owners have about their property taxes and the assessed value?
Sure. Well, I think it starts with kind of what you said. The first is a lot of people don't really know what's going to happen to their property tax when they buy a property. And usually it's first-time home buyers or somebody moving in. Because you mentioned it, that when somebody buys the home of a previous owner, generally they pay the property taxes of the previous owner. Because if they were there for a long time, they had the benefit of the Save Our Homes assessment clause, their assessed value was probably much lower than what their market value was. And so they really saved a lot in their taxes. When the new person comes in, if they pay arm's length transaction, they pay actually what the property's worth, that's probably going to be right about the new value they're going to pay their taxes on. And that's going to happen the year later, and it's going to go up substantially. And so what I always tell people is before you buy a property, just go on our website at bcpa.net, look on our tax estimator and see what your taxes are going to be after it resets. Also, we have a portability estimator. There's all kinds of things up there that can help. The other thing I think is a lot of times I think people can get nervous about calling the property appraiser's office.
Yeah.
They just really don't know always what we do,
Right.
but we're really there to help.
Yeah.
And so if anybody has any issue, any question whatsoever on anything about their property, or if they're thinking about a property, just call us. Use us as a resource. We have a lot of information,
Yeah.
and we're just going to give that to you so you can take that information and make the best decision for yourself and your family.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's talk through some of like the semantics. So the portability
Yes.
and your Save Our Homes. So for people out there listening that don't know, because I do meet with a lot of sellers that don't know what portability is.
Yes.
And so let's unravel some of those things and unpack those.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, portability is a fantastic thing. It gives people the opportunity to move from one home into another home and not be taxed out of that home. And here's the way it works. When you buy your home, you file for Homestead. And when you do that, two things happen. The first thing that happens is $50,000 of value is taken off the tax roll you don't pay taxes on. But the most important thing is it kicks in the Save Our Homes assessment clause of the Florida Constitution that says that every year thereafter, the value you're taxed on cannot go more than a maximum of 3%. So over time, your market value gets higher based on what people are selling for similar properties, but your assessed value stays capped at 3%. So each year it can't go up more than a maximum of 3%. So over time, your market value gets high, your assessed value stays low. You have all this value between your market value and your assessed value you don't pay taxes on. If you now decide you want to buy any other home anywhere else in the state of Florida, make that your new homestead, and it's a home of equal or greater value, you take a percentage of, you take whatever the difference that is with you between your market and your assessed value to your new home and not pay taxes on it. If you buy a home of lower value, you take a percentage of it, and you can easily look at our website to see what that percentage will be. But let me give you a real world example just to show you how it works. There was a couple that lived in the city of Weston, and they bought their home in Weston Hills when Weston Hills was built a few decades ago. And at that time, a young family could still afford a home in Weston Hills. It was a pretty home on the golf course. They bought it for a couple $100,000 at the time. Well, when they did that, they filed for Homestead. And then the Save Our Homes assessment clause kicked into place that said that every year thereafter, the value of their tax on could not go up more than a maximum of 3%. So after about 20 years, their kids went to Cypress Bay High School and the University of Florida, and they're just empty nesters. And they wanted to sell their property, but they were very concerned that they wanted to move to Fort Lauderdale, but they were very concerned about what the property tax would be in Fort Lauderdale, so we looked at their property. The assessed value, the market value of their property in Weston was about $1 million. But their assessed value was about $500,000 because of that cap. So it was $500,000 of value they weren't paying taxes on. What they did was they sold their Weston home. They bought a condo in downtown Fort Lauderdale for about $1 million, and were able to move the full $500,000 of value they weren't paying taxes on in Weston to Fort Lauderdale, which dropped their assessed value to about $500,000, meaning their taxes in Fort Lauderdale were very similar to what they were in Weston. Portability is awesome.
Which in that scenario, a rough estimate back of the napkin is like almost 10 grand,
it
give
is,
or
right
take.
about $10,000. And what people don't always realize, you're not just saving $10,000 the first day, you're saving it every single year thereafter.
Yep.
It is a great, great program. So I always tell people, just go on our website at bcpa.net. If you know what the purchase price is for your new home, you can go on our portability estimator, and we'll give you a really good estimate of what your property tax would be with portability and without portability, and it can really save you a lot of money.
I did learn too, though, that portability number is a fluid number depending on the market.
It is.
And what happens with the market. So I was going to share a real life example too. I had a seller who was selling a property, and they had maybe about $80,000 in portability when we first started the conversation in 24 or 25. Yeah, 25. And Then when 25 hit, There were no sales in 24 or 25 in that community. It was a very smaller community. I'm not sure how, it got bulk assessed. The assessor's office said they would reevaluate it because what ended up happening is their taxes went down.
Yeah.
And then it could also go down when the market goes down.
Yes.
And when the market crashed back years ago, it goes down too, right? So it's a fluid number. The situation that happened with this buyer is they were going to be buying another property. And we started the conversation before this newfound discovery of it going down. And the whole community was very excited because their taxes went down about $1,400 or so. But the seller lost all their portability that year. So it was like one of those things, like you can test it with the property appraiser's office that you want your taxes to go up because they sold their house that year and the differential was like nominal. It was really nominal. So it's interesting to note as well that number is it's fluid in the year that you sell what those two numbers are. But your assessed value will be capped at the 3% or the lower of the CPI or the 3%. And
it's true. Well, you know what? When people come in, usually it's to contest their actual value that they pay taxes on. Then they want to make to go lower. A lot of people do come in though to try to get that assessed value higher or get the market value higher. Because basically you pay tax on your assessed value. So the higher the market value is, the better it is for you for portability purposes. And so every once in a while, people will come in and let's say, listen, Marty, you have my property valued too low for its market value. Here's these other properties in the area, or here's why my property inside is just fantastic and different than these other properties. And they'll show us information, even give us appraisals that'll help us actually bring up their market value.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, then what occurs is it gives people more portability to be able to move on over.
Yeah.
So it actually happens a lot. It's a very interesting thing.
It was a first for me. I was like, oh gosh, this is so bizarre. Wow, that stinks. I had I don't know what they ended up doing with it. I gave them the instructions and where to go and off on their merry way.
Well, you know what I always tell everybody? An appraisal is an opinion of value.
Yep.
And what may work for one property may not work for another based on the law and the facts. So I always tell everybody, just come on in. If you're concerned about something or if you want us to take a look at something, if we can help, we're always going to do it. So just come on in, let us go through it with you. And if we could raise that market value, which wouldn't raise your property taxes, we're going to do it. If we can't, we'll tell you why. And I'll just tell you these are your options to see if it can happen anyways.
Also, one thing that's important to note for people out there, and I'll use another example, is based on how you're taking title to the home, you have certain options available to you that will allow for homestead, full, partial, whatnot, right?
Yes.
So tenants in common,
50%.
50%. If you bought the house with your dad and somehow you did it as tenants in common, where you're half and half, then your half can have the half.
Yes.
Dad can have his own homestead on his other house, but you can't have the full homestead.
Yes.
Joint tenants right of survivorship. You own it each 100% at the same time. It's, whatever. And you can get the full homestead exemption and dad can have another one because of how that is, right? So I've learned that over the years. I had a seller, a good friend many years ago, who came to me. They bought their house very cheap, back when the market crashed, few $100,000. We were selling it for $700,000-800,000.
Wow.
And we were gonna, they were gonna buy something else and, upsize. And I said, well, that's great. Let me tell you about portability. And this was as we were discussing prepping for the sale. And then I pulled it up and I was like, oh, wait, oh God, hold on. What am I looking at? No, I don't see any difference. The market value, the assessed value, your assessed value is so high. What happened? And I asked them, I said, hey, you never filed, I went back history. I'm like, you never filed homestead. You never locked in the Save Our Homes when you bought it. No, our realtor told us we couldn't.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, oh, good Lord. And I was doing back of the envelope numbers. And I'm like, you guys, I can't even imagine how much they spent. And then they lost all that savings that they could have ported to the other house because they said, oh, your dad was on the deed with you. Well, he was on the deed in a manner that was even the best way possible. They could have had that, right? So for realtors out there, unless you know for sure and you're giving the right information, don't give that information. But this poor family spent, 50, 60 grand over the years more in taxes and then never were able to take it into the future.
Absolutely.
So call Marty's office, ask them questions. Hey, another thing that's also generating of a assessed value change, which I learned in the last couple of years, is when you're changing the deed in certain ways.
Yes.
Right? So speak to that because that could really shell shock people, not realizing that they're putting it into a different thing, a trust, changing ownership, bringing on someone else onto the deed with them. So speak a little bit about that, because that came up a couple of times for people I know too.
Absolutely. And Nicole, I want to thank you again for taking the time to actually call our office and ask these questions.
I love them.
And
they're like my friends. I call all the time.
You know what's too, and also I think, our office can protect the realtors as well, because if there's an issue and you want to be able to protect your client, our staff, even our lawyers, will get involved and send you something in writing, so you can utilize that and show it to your client.
Yeah.
And so you have any issue like that, use us, let us help you, and let us give you information. And it's true, even changing the deed is a very important thing. So let's say, for example, it's your property and it's your homesteaded property, and you own it like yourself. And now, though, you decide, you know what, I'm going to turn it into an LLC. So I'm going to change the deed to an LLC. Well, if you do that, all of a sudden you lose your homestead. It's a change of ownership, and all the value you don't pay tax on goes away. It gets reset to market value, and your taxes go way up. The same thing, vice versa, by the way. Somebody could, let's say, for example, you have a non-homestead property. So it's a rental property, and it's been in your name the entire time. Well, if it's in your name, the value you're taxed on can't go up more than 10%, except for the school portion of the tax bill. Now, all of a sudden, you get worried, and you're like, it's a rental property. Somebody could slip and fall. I want to put it into an LLC. Well, you put it into an LLC, it triggers a change of ownership, and you go up.
Triggered a new assessment.
It is, and it can go up
at the market value at that time.
It's true, and now trusts can have homesteads, but it has to be very specific how you have that trust, and you can move your property from your current in your name into a trust, and it won't re-trigger a reassessment, but it has to be done very, very correctly. And so I always tell everybody, if you're going to do it, just call our office, talk to our lawyers. They'll walk you through it, or they'll walk your lawyer through it to make sure everything is good and you won't suffer any negative ramifications in the future.
I'll give you another example, people out there. I had someone who called me. They bought a house, very high value house. They forgot to do the homestead exemption, but they bought it 2020 before market values went up. They forgot to do the exemption.
Yeah.
They waited until maybe it was 2019, a few years. And then they found out, someone said, oh, you didn't do homestead, right? So you should do homestead, file for homestead. So at that time, they filed for homestead thinking they were doing the right thing.
And it made their tax go up higher.
And I was told by your office that they have, I remember, the constitutional right to reassess the value at certain property changes that it got reassessed. So he basically filed homestead, bought the house, just hypothetical numbers, for $800,000 when the market was crazy, and he filed for homestead that year in 22 or 23. The house was worth $1.4 million.
Yeah,
it skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So then he filed homestead. It got reassessed at that change of right?
Oh, yes.
And then it got reassessed, and now his taxes with homestead were way higher.
Yeah. That's why.
And he called me and he's like, I don't understand. So I unpacked it all, and I was like, whoa, wow, this is a first for me. And then I didn't even help him buy the house. It was just a friend of mine. And then we called the office, and I don't know, I sent him with the information to go on his way. I don't know what ended up happening, but I don't know if they offered to undo. I don't know what they were like. It was a weird situation. Like, you thought that you were going to lock in that number. He was better off riding on the 10% cap on a non-homesteaded property, depending on the situation, right? You have to run the numbers. Is there anything that you can do out there that to a consumer, any mistakes they can make that can really not be undone?
There are some things that we can do. So, for example, under Florida law, if somebody does, let's say they transfer, like he did, that gentleman did, we can go back in time that first year and bring it backwards and let him reset it.
Yeah.
We're allowed to do that. That was given to us recently by the legislature.
I think that's what he did.
It is.
Yeah.
And so, but what I always tell everybody, the best thing to do is we try to make it very convenient, very easy for people to file for homestead exemption and for portability. So the first year you buy that property, you can pre-file for homestead. And the way it really works is, just for the public out there, January 1st is what we call our date of assessment. That's the date we determine that you really own that property. So what happens is, if you buy your property, let's say in June, in that on that June all the way up until January, it's almost like the previous owner owned the property. So you're going to pay the taxes of the previous owner. You can't have your homestead exemption yet. But when you own that property on January 1st of that next year, that's the first date that you own the property under Florida law for homestead purposes. And you can actually pre-file before that. It's all ready to go. We'll get that going for you. And so what'll happen is from that date on, you'll be protected by the homestead exemption. So if that gentleman would have just pre-filed the way that he did.
People forget.
It's
true. It's hard.
It's true. It would help them. So it's one of those things. I think the best thing to do, honestly, and this is why I'm so appreciative that you had me on this podcast, is, as I said before, there's so much our office can do. And sometimes it's very difficult to reach everybody, even though we really, really try. And so when you bring me on here and other people bring me on there to talk about what we do, it helps us help those people. And I know there's realtors and folks that are listening to this. They're going to say, oh, okay, you know what? I have this client now. I'm going to call Marty's office and help them. So thank you so much for that, Nicole.
Yeah, no, it's super important. There's so many, like I've been doing this a long time and I just joke that I have like all the situations. Like it's never easy. It's always something.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've learned because of it. And, ultimately there's a lot of different things that have come up. One other thing, speaking about homestead and removing homestead and whatnot, I've had situations, and this is something to just kind of keep in the back of your mind, because I do a lot of probate estate properties. I do a lot of seniors that have downsized or moved out of state or have downsized. So, one thing that came to me last year, which was an interesting situation too, was that the seller of the property moved out before, like Marty said, January 1st, right? So they moved out by in like October, November. They bought another home. They actually bought another home in our state, actually. And they removed, because what did they need to do? They needed to put homestead on their new home because they owned it before January 1st, because you have to, right? So they qualified to be able to have the homestead on their home. They ported it all and whatnot that they had, the right to do. But they went and then sold the property in like April. And the title company looks at the last year's tax bill when they do your prorations, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't follow up on the fact that it's not homesteaded anymore.
Yeah.
So one thing that I was like very shrewd on in thinking was, I heard the agent say he already bought another house last year. And I was like, oh, wait a second. So when I called your office, they were like, yeah, homestead was removed. So what does that mean? So realtors, when you're selling a house, or buyers, when you're buying a house, thinking that you are basically closing in June, July, or whatever it is, and you're looking at, you don't have it up yet online. You can't see that they removed the homestead yet. It hasn't been done yet. So you could be in a position where you're getting prorated on your settlement statement for Shirley's tax bill that was $2,000 for the year. And then you didn't know, unbeknownst to you, they removed homestead so that they could put it on their other property. They ported everything. Unless you call your office, you wouldn't know that. So now we had a situation where they basically, like, I was telling the title company attorney, I'm like, you have to hold back, because this is going to get reassessed. And look at the market value. The market value is $700,000. She bought it for whatever it was. Her assessed value is very low. I was like, you need to hold back a lot of money. And they're like, no, blah, blah, blah. I said, you need to hold back. They removed homestead. Oh, they removed homestead. How'd you find that out? Well, then obviously the year that's being prorated, January through June when we close, whenever it was is going to be reassessed. So you could have only gotten, 6 months worth from the seller on a $2,400 bill. When it gets reassessed in November, you're going to get that shell shock and realize. So just kind of keep in mind when you're buying those vacant homes and things like that, and where the seller is going, if they bought something else, if they removed the homestead. Just that was something new. That was just my like Nicole crazy above and beyond thing. But it happens.
No,
it happens.
And Nicole,
and I learned it from your office. They told me, they're like, she could remove. Your office, they said they could remove the homestead up until like late in the year. Like it could be done undone.
All the way up until
the end.
Up until September.
Yeah, that's what she said. I was shocked.
It's true.
Yeah.
And, I'm just so glad that you called. And once again, that just kind of shows, that makes me so happy. Because at the end of the day, if you didn't call, they would have, they wouldn't have got a credit, and they would have pretty much thought one thing, and they would have got a big sticker shock in November when they got the tax bill.
The seller didn't pay their fair share.
It's true. And so that's why I always tell everybody, just call our office. There's so much information we have. If you have any question whatsoever, we're so happy to walk you through it.
Yeah.
And that actually is more common than you think when that happens.
Yeah. No, I've had a lot the last couple of years, a lot of like really weird out of the box ones, and your team's been great. I'm like, are you sure? She goes, yes, ma'am. I'm like, oh God, okay. But they're great. They're so knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. I've learned all the stuff I've learned is from literally calling your office with all the random stuff that's come up.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's great.
That's really great.
Let's see. How are you guys doing these assessments, right? Like bulk based on sales? Like what's the somewhat technicality, not too deep into the weeds of it?
So think about it this way. There are a few different ways to determine the value of properties. And it all depends on what kind of property it is. You have residential, commercial, and you have newly built properties, for example, that could be either residential or commercial. And there are 3 ways to determine what a property is worth under Florida law. The first one, the easiest way, is the comparable sales method. Basically, you look at a property, and if it's existingly owned property, hasn't changed hands, you look to see what all other similar properties were that sold that are similar to it, and utilize those properties to determine a value for that property. When it's commercial property, it could be a mall or a car dealership. You look at comparable sales, but you also look at the income the property produces. So we'll create our own income pro formas about properties. Commercial properties will share their information with us, and we determine a value that way. And then there are properties that are so unique. They're not residential properties. Well, they're residential or commercial, but there's nothing else like them. And so we have what's called the cost approach, and we figure out what it costs to build a property up from the ground up. A good example is we use that on a current property in Southwest Ranches that's about 70,000 square feet. It's a residential property because there's nothing like it. The only places you had that were even similar to like it are basically on Palm Beach Island, which is a little bit different than Southwest Ranches. And so those are really the 3 approaches to value. And just so people can know, January 1st is our date of assessment. Again, that's the day we determine the value of all property. So what we do is we look at your property on January 1st, and then we're going to look at all the data from the year before to figure out a value for that property. And that's kind of how we do it.
Lots of people doing this.
Yeah, we do. We have about 260 people that work in our office.
Wow.
Most are appraisers, and they're pretty great at it. I'm very proud of the work that they do.
Wow, yeah, it's a lot.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I hope that made sense.
Yep. No, I got you.
Oh, thank you.
So this is one that I've heard a lot about too. You do work to your house.
Mm-hmm.
You redo things. You have permits pulled. You're redoing the kitchen. You're adding a pool. You're doing inside, outside work, adding additions. Where does that come to your table?
Such a great question. So generally, all we really care about is the footprint of the property. And if it gets bigger, it's probably going to increase the assessed value of the property. If it's on the inside, it's probably not going to. And let me just kind of explain to people. We're mass appraisers, not fee appraisers.
Right.
We don't know what the property looks like on the inside, and we don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to know how big the property is, its location, and that's how we determine a value for it. So all day, every day, the cities provide us all the permits that have been pulled. And if there are permits that show you're redoing the bathroom or the kitchen, we discard them. That is not going to increase the assessed value of your property.
Very good to know.
But if you're adding 1,000 square feet to your property, if you're making the footprint bigger, or the only time on the inside of the property, let's say you make your garage into a bedroom, so you're elevating it, that'll actually increase what's under air. So things of that nature will actually increase the assessed value of the property. If you put a pool in, it may increase it a little bit. If you put some types of pavers in, it may increase it a little bit. And so I always tell everybody, just call our office, let us know what you're thinking about doing, and we can give you a really good idea of what it will do to your property taxes if you do it, so you can really make a very good decision if you want to do it.
Very good information. That is good to know.
Oh, thank you.
And I've also got a recent question from a past client and good friend of mine. Someone has a ladybird deed.
Mm-hmm.
Without going into the technicalities and all that, it's basically you are the owner, and then when you pass, it can go to Joe Schmo, and it's flawless. It doesn't have to go through probate. There's no other things that have to happen. And technically, you don't have to do anything with you technically either, because I feel like there's a correspondence with the Department of Vital Records. So like, what's that look like?
That's a great question. A ladybird deed is fantastic.
Or any deed, right? That someone passes away and any kind of deed.
Well, I'll tell you
Then
this.
you have the EST, that comes up on it, right? So how does that all manifest?
So what occurs is when somebody owns a property and they pass away, there are a few things. Every property is a little bit different. So it's kind of a hard question to answer because it may go a different way. Let's say, for example, you are a husband and wife and you're both on the deed. If, let's say, the husband passes away, the wife automatically has the property, especially if it's joint tenancy or tenancy by the entirety. If you have a ladybird deed, that's a little bit different. A ladybird deed is really a way of somebody being able to devise their property without giving up any control of their property while they're alive. So if you put anybody on your deed for any other reason, joint tenancy, right of survivorship, tenancy in common, whatever it is, they now have rights to that property. And you can't really do anything with your property unless they agree. But if you have a ladybird deed, it really just lets you avoid probate and it lets you be able to do whatever you want with the property. So my dad, for example, has a property in Davie. He's had since the 1980s. And he has a ladybird deed where the beneficiaries are myself, my sister, and my brother. And many years from now, when my dad is no longer here, we'll get that property right at that time. But while he's here, we have no rights to that property. We can't tell him he can't mortgage the property, sell the property, he can do whatever he wants. So what occurs, though, when somebody passes away, we find out through the state. They send us some information. We also look through the obituaries. People will also let us know. And we're able to update our records based on the information that we get on that.
Very cool. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So that's one thing too, when I go into listings and, I'll show property. I had an example a few months back where I was going to show a listing and I'll go in to kind of get an idea if their square footage was right on the MLS and just kind of get a feel for some of those listings as we're preparing. And I see, Joe Schmo EST.
Yes.
Right. So for people out there, when you see that EST, that basically means that the last deed of record did not have a ladybird, did not have a manner in which it would avoid probate.
Right. And it's going through probate at the time.
And EST basically means it cannot be sold until it has gone through a probate proceeding.
Yes.
So when you see those properties like that, note that as a realtor as well, you cannot necessarily take that listing without having certain information. You can't list it for 8 months and then have me show it and then ask you what's going on with the probate and you not knowing what that even means.
Absolutely.
And at that point in time, the probate never finished. It was not ready to sell and, things like that. So there's a lot of different things, which I'll also share with agents too, when you're getting the listing docs done. And, I have an attorney. I work for a broker that's an attorney, which is great because we can't make things up as realtors. It's the illegal practice of law. But partner with great title agents that are attorney-owned. Partner with, if you have an in-house counsel at your brokerage to look at these things before you take the listing to see where they stand. It's in a trust. Great. Shirley died. Trust. This is what we need to do. You see the EST. What are you going to do with that? Who are you following up? Who are you following up with? You see, when you look at the name also, you'll see on BCPA, you'll see how the name is written, right? But that may not be your seller's full name. There's certain things that come out. Like sometimes you might have an et al. And there's more people in there. Sometimes you'll have, sometimes I've seen it where like the remainderment on a ladybird deed was actually on there. Yeah. And sometimes, so you have to look at the deed. Mm-hmm. You have to look at the deed when you're writing those documents. Who's the actual seller on that last recorded deed? Read it. If you can't read it, have someone read it so that you're making sure that you're accounting for the proper person on the other end of that contract.
You are so right about that. Absolutely. And you know what? And that's why it's so important that people take advantage of all the resources they can. They're realtors, lawyers, our office, and others. Because the last thing you want to do is do something that, kind of breaks the chain in the title. because it can really come back to hurt you later on. So no, thank you. That's that great advice you gave.
I'm like, we're throwing in all sorts of things in here,
No, I think
sprinkling
it's awesome.
stuff.
Oh, I'm happy to talk about all of it. I really appreciate it.
Like I said, I want to get into like the real guts and meat and
Sure.
potatoes.
Of
So
course.
we were talking about portability, how great it is. And I know, was it like a few years ago when it was on the ballot to make it
was.
from 2 years to 3 years?
Yes.
Right. So one thing when you guys are selling your homes and you have this chunk of, portability that Marty was talking about, you've got the calendar year in which you sold the home and then the 2 subsequent years after that.
Yes.
Or which it's 3 years versus the 2 years. So you sell in February of 26.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you have until, if you forget portability,
Sure.
you kind of are SOL?
You are. So it's so basically it's 3 tax years, and it starts on January 1st. So if you sold in February 2026, your tax year started on January 1st of 2026. So you would have 26th, 27th, 28th.
Yeah.
And you would have all the way till September of 2029 to file.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to have been homesteaded by January 1 of 2029, I'm guessing. So it's the 3 years. And so it's it's a good grace period, but if you go over that, there's nothing under Florida law whatsoever that allows us to go backwards.
Nothing, guys.
And
nothing.
I had a person call me that missed the deadline by about a month that had $500,000 in portability, and there was nothing we could do. I went to the Department of Revenue, asked them to say, I begged them, wouldn't do that. And so those are people that actually lost out on saving $10,000 a year every year. That's a lot of money. Yeah. So portability is a really big deal.
Set calendar reminders, whatever it takes to make sure you don't forget certain things. Because,
And the key is, though, just making sure it's your new homestead within that 3-year period.
Right.
So if there's anybody listening now that moved within 3 tax years recently, did not file for portability, but did file for homestead, we can actually go back in time and give you portability. So as long as you had got your new homestead within 3 tax years, you are good to go.
Okay, so if you forgot to do the portability, but did file the homestead.
Yes, we can go back.
You can go back.
Yes.
Oh, so the issue is if you forgot to file the new homestead.
Yes, you just didn't file your homestead within 3 tax years.
Within the 3 tax years.
Yes.
I got you. Okay. Good information.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good distinguish.
We actually try to find, we have a part of our office where they look through the deeds every single day and they try to figure out if there's anybody that didn't file for portability. And so I want to say last year, maybe we helped probably about maybe almost 500 or 600 homeowners that hadn't filed for portability on time. And I was able to call them and say, hey, by the way, you never filed for portability. If you do it right now, you get this much money back.
That's so nice of you guys.
Oh, no, thank you. It's the best feeling. I always find that whenever you get to call somebody and tell them you're actually giving them money, they get very happy.
I get heartbroken. Like when I had this situation with my friend, I literally was like going to vomit. I was so sick for her. I was like, oh my really?
It is a lot of money.
It was a lot of money.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, and it's hard because life gets in the way. You've got kids, you've got the dogs, you've got stuff going on. Like I usually, and I'm ADHD, so I've learned, and I only discovered it recently, but I've learned over the years how to compensate.
Sure.
And so I'm beyond, like no one would ever know because I'm like insanely organized. That's because I have like my system. So like the second like you tell me something, I write a note about it. I'm like very much to put it in your calendar. Yeah. When your agent is telling you at the table, some title companies are great. They have you on a little drip system that reminds you. Some realtors will have you on a little drip system that reminds you when things come up. But these are like really big ticket items that, really can save you lots of money.
A lot of money.
Big stuff.
Absolutely.
So you've got like, you have these exemptions, right? So different exemptions, seniors, veterans, widows, disabled owners. What are anything you can dig into those exemptions and kind of what they affect? Like I know not the school, like the veterans one. Well, you tell me a little bit about it. Like
Absolutely.
So what affects the school? What affects the full amount? There's certain ones that don't take that. Yeah. Keep going. You go.
No, of course. There are so many exemptions that can save people a whole lot of money. What people have to understand, the most important one is the homestead exemption. It's like the gateway exemption. You can't have any other exemption unless you have that. Once you get the homestead exemption, then you can qualify for anything else, and you can stack all these exemptions to reduce your tax bill. My favorite one that I just love because is the senior exemption. It's my favorite one because Broward County, for example, has 2 million people, and a little less than a third of our residents are seniors. And what I found, though, is unfortunately the most impoverished portion of our population are also seniors who are really struggling to make ends meet. And so if you can give them an exemption to help them save a little bit of money, it goes a very long way. And so the senior exemption doesn't apply to the schools, but it does apply to the city and the county portion of the tax bill. And all it basically says is if you're over 65, made under about $38,000 last year, if you don't file income taxes, Social Security doesn't count. If you do, you look at your adjusted gross income tax line of your income tax statement, you basically get another homestead exemption on top of the current one you have. It can save you another $400 or $500 a year. There are some exemptions that do apply to the schools, like the veterans exemption. If somebody is 100% totally permanently disabled veteran, they are fully exempt from taxes.
Fully exempt. They just have the non-ad valorem.
They have the non-ad valorem.
Yep.
They do. If they're a senior that is over 65 years of age and they're a combat disabled veteran, they get a percentage reduction in their taxes that correlates to whatever their disability percentage is. So if they're 60% disabled, a 60% reduction, 50%, 50%. There's also a pretty good reduction for veterans who are 100% disabled or who are disabled but not 100%. And they get a good savings. The widow's exemption applies to all taxing authorities. There are other disability exemptions that do as well. It all kind of depends. What a lot of people don't realize is the homestead exemption, you have two $25,000 exemptions. The first $25,000 applies to all taxing authorities, but the second doesn't apply to the school portion of it. But with regard to all these exemptions, anybody that's entitled to them should get them. And I always look at it like this. When you file your income taxes, if you don't get every deduction you're entitled to, you're giving the government too much money. The same with our exemptions. If there's an exemption you're not getting, you're paying the government too much money. You deserve to keep that money in your pocket. So I always tell everybody, go on our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions, and if there's something you're not getting, all you got to do is contact our office this year by September 17th, and we'll make sure it's reflected in your November tax bill.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. Okay. So, obviously now we got a lot going on with taxes and property taxes in our state. What's through your lens and thoughts and just idea, what are you seeing with these changes that are
So I'll tell you, it's very interesting.
Potential.
And I'll definitely give you my perspective on the property tax amendment that the people of Florida are going to vote for or against in November of this year. Now, just to let you know, I haven't taken a position on it because I have a lot of information. And my goal is to basically provide people all the information possible.
And that's what I want, the information,
right, so
and then we can take positions. Because I think there's a lot of unknown of what it actually means and some misconceptions of what they're voting for potentially.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you kind of how we got there and what people will be voting on. So more than a year ago, some random guy from North Florida, I believe, tweeted that property taxes are horrible. We got to get rid of them. And when they did that, the governor actually saw that tweet and the governor retweeted it. And when the governor retweets something, it kind of brings a big conversation into an issue. And so when that happened, one of the first things that occurred was the Florida Policy Institute, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank in Tallahassee, did a study. And they said, okay, if you get rid of all property taxes, residential, commercial, everything, what does that mean? And they basically said, well, it means that local governments collect about $55 to $60 billion a year in property taxes, and that funds all of our services from schools to police to fire to roads to bridges to all those important things. And they basically said, okay, well, if you get rid of that, you still need police, fire, roads, bridges, schools, all those things. How do you replace it? And they said, well, you have to increase the sales tax to probably 12%, likely more than that in South Florida. We have a high cost of living. The next thing they did was they polled the people of Florida because for any changes to happen, the people have to vote on it in a November election. And they basically said, okay, would you support getting rid of all property taxes and increasing the sales tax to the amount that I just mentioned? And overwhelmingly, the people of Florida said it was a bad idea. About 70% of the people said no, all political parties said no, and all areas of the state said no. And so when that happened, the conversation changed from getting rid of all property taxes to focusing on homesteaded property taxes only. And so the Florida legislature met from June 1st to June 3rd this month actually, and they basically passed a constitutional amendment to put on the ballot for the people to vote for or against. And here's what that amendment does. If more than 60% of the people vote for it, it changes the Constitution, and it goes like this. Beginning on January 1st, 2027, every single homesteaded property owner will have a $150,000 exemption. Beginning in 2028, everybody will have a $250,000 homestead exemption. And then the legislature is supposed to make a schedule to ultimately potentially eliminate all homestead property taxes over a period of time, except for the school portion of the tax bill. It doesn't apply to schools. So you still pay taxes to schools if you're a homestead property owner. And here's basically what it means for Broward County. What I did was I wanted to see, okay, what would this effect have on the people of Broward County and the taxing authorities if it was in effect for the 2025 tax year?
Yeah. Okay.
So I basically looked at the amendment and we applied it. And we basically said, okay, if you apply a $150,000 exemption to every single homesteaded property owner in Broward County, it would save them off the top about $1,300. But at the same time, the county commission would lose about $200 million of what it brings in property taxes. We then applied the $250,000 exemption. If every single homesteaded property owner had a $250,000 exemption, they would save on average about $2,600 a year, which is a lot of money. But at the same time, the county commission would lose about $333 million. And then ultimately, years from now, if you eliminated all homestead property taxes, if that was in effect now, it doesn't apply to schools. The average property owner would save about $3,400, but the county commission would lose about $333 million. And I think it's very, very important for people to have all the information because at the end of the day, you want to know what your savings will be and what the loss of revenue will be to local government.
The offset.
The offset, exactly. And there's a lot that goes into it. At the end of the day, I think this is going to be one of the most consequential votes that the people of Florida will ever take.
Yeah.
Because it could potentially change things.
Yeah.
And I just hope that people really do their research, really look at it so they can make the best vote possible. Because here's the deal. When there is somebody in public office that you're not happy with, you can elect somebody else to that office. When you change the Constitution, it's there forever.
Right.
So it's really important to do all your research.
Right. You got this. Like you're very knowledgeable. You got this.
No, thank
you know it so well. That's amazing. Thank you for helping clarify that.
No,
yeah,
I really appreciate it. It's so very important.
I think people need to do, like you said, do your research, do your due diligence. The sound bites of things are not always necessarily like everything you need to make that decision.
And as this gets closer to November, there's a good chance that a lot of money, millions of dollars potentially, is going to be spent for and against this amendment, advocating for both sides. I just think what's very important is that the people really just put that aside, don't listen to the noise, and just really look at it through your own lens.
Right.
Try to find the actual information out there. Call your property appraisers and local governments. Try to figure out, okay, what impact will this be? And also try to figure out what you're going to save as well, because I think all of that is very important to know so you can just make the best vote possible.
Yeah, no, awesome. That's definitely one of those sound bites that's all over the place now.
Yeah.
So I figured we had
deal.
to have, a brief conversation about that.
It's a very big deal.
It'll be very interesting to see. Yeah, I know, definitely. I was, I don't know, it's lots of things that we have to factor in and think about. I'm going to look through my list of other questions. And,
sure. No, you're doing great.
So I actually had one other example because I do a lot with families that have inherited property.
Okay.
And so when that happens, like Marty had said, I'm just going to plug it in really randomly. But when that happens, keep in mind, like if it went through probate or whatever it was, that, I had a situation where the sellers took 2.5 years to sell the property.
Yeah.
And it sat vacant and it lost homestead. And it lost, the values were different, right? So they had a tax bill from the mom that was $800. It turned into $5,000.
Oh, yes.
Right. So, there was just one other example I had that I wanted to plug in earlier.
Oh, yeah.
But, just kind of keeping in mind that holding things, will cost you in ways that you may not think about it
You
as
are
well.
so right about that. I had one recently where there was a mother that owned a property for 40 years. And she's been homesteaded for a very long time. And it was a beautiful home. I think her assessed value was about $300,000. She passed on and it reset to $2 million. And so you can imagine a $300,000 tax bill is way different than a $2 million tax bill.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge one.
So that first year,
you honor it, right?
So if you
she
sell
passed away January 15th.
You are good to go that year.
You are good. You got the homestead.
Yes.
We locked it in January 1st.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You wait till next year.
Then it's going to go way up and the taxes are going to go up significantly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lots of little pieces that seem like it's not common, but it is.
Yeah.
It's so common.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why I wanted to kind of bring up, I'm going back on my notes over here.
No, thank you. I think these are such important, you know what it is? These are, and excuse me for, apologize
No,
about
you're
that.
good. Don't worry.
I know a lot of these questions and a lot of these answers can seem very technical and sometimes get into the weeds, but they're so important because they affect everybody and they can really, really help you save a lot of money. Or if you don't do it correctly, you can actually spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so talking about it and really getting into it goes a very long way.
Yeah, no. Is there anything that burns inside you that I did not cover, or anything you can think of that people out there should know? I know I had him talking. That's what happened with my last guest. Around this time, they started coughing drink. Don't worry.
I'm so sorry
you're
about
good.
that.
Please, don't worry. Don't worry. No, he's
better.
been a wealth of information, and you got it all like right up here, and it comes out so beautifully.
You know what it was? About 2 weeks ago, I was so sick, and I just have not got rid of this cough. And so whenever I think about it, I start to do it. So I really apologize about that.
Don't worry. You're good. Don't worry.
All I really want to do is just to thank you, Nicole, because as
My
I said
pleasure.
at the beginning, there's so much our office can do, but the difficulty is reaching everybody. And every single time I run for reelection, I'll always get asked, Marty, what do you regret from your last 4 years? And what I always say is there's so much we've been able to do, so many people we were able to help, but there's still people I wasn't able to get to. And the fact that you took the time to bring me onto your podcast to talk about this really helps me reach people.
Cough. You're good. Don't worry. This is unscripted.
I'm so sorry about that.
We're real people here.
I would say it really helps me reach people I can't reach on my.
Oh my goodness. Well, I will.
I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Thank you for having me.
Don't worry. It was a pleasure having you. Like I said in the beginning, I was so excited for this episode. It's one of those things I'm really passionate about. Like I'm a numbers nerd, and like you said, the weeds and some things get technical, but like that's the only way you can best understand it when it is technical and you can, dig in. So thank you. And everyone out there, obviously I usually end the show with saying, how can you reach him? Yes. Well, he's got, bcpa.net.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys have any questions, their numbers are on there. Reach out for anything you need. They're very accessible from my experience, and it's better to ask before you do something. If no question is a silly question, definitely make sure that you're getting all the information you need in advance and setting those deadlines, making sure if you're buying a property, if you bought one in the last 3 years, that, catching yourself before you forget things. Did you homestead? Did you not? Just making sure that you're doing the right thing for you. And if you got any nuggets from this show, which you had to have, this was like the best one. Please share, like, subscribe, get it into the hands of as many people as Marty said as possible, so that they can also, sign up for these things like the owner alert program. How many homes do we have is it 400,000? So you're like 75% there or so? Oh my goodness. Just nod.
Sorry.
You're good. Don't worry.
I'll tell you, we have, in Broward County, we have about 700,000 parcels.
700,000 parcels.
And we have more than 400,000 homesteaded properties.
Homesteaded properties.
And we've had about 330,000 homesteaded properties sign up for owner alert.
Great. We're almost there.
Absolutely.
People, sign up. Make sure you listen and follow through. Thank you, Marty, so much. Thank you. Guys out there, thank you so much for joining us. I really hope that you had learned a lot from this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, everybody.
Another app for inventory, one for CRM. Oh, don't forget accounting. Wait, which login was that?
Or you could use Odoo, one fully integrated system that does it all without the hassle. Ditch the app overload. Get everything your business needs on one platform. Try Odoo free today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.